The first time I heard someone screaming inside the fog, I was standing beside my truck with a dead battery and a cup of gas station coffee in my hand. The strange part wasn't the scream. It was that I could hear it moving. It started somewhere across the soybean field to my left, far enough away that I almost convinced myself it was farm equipment. Then it stopped for maybe 5 seconds and started again from somewhere much closer. Same broken sound, same voice. Except now I could make out a word. Dad. I put the coffee on the hood and stared into the white. Nothing. The fog was thick enough that the fence posts disappeared about 30 feet from the road. Beyond them was open farmland for almost 2 miles. There shouldn't have been anybody out there at 6:20 in the morning. Then something tall crossed between 2 fence posts. I saw it for maybe half a second. I got back inside my truck and locked the doors. That probably sounds ridiculous coming from a 37-year-old man who'd spent most of his adult life believing every ghost story had a plumbing explanation. But sitting there, watching the fog press against the windshield, I remembered something my neighbor Rachel had told me 3 weeks earlier. If you hear somebody calling from the fog, don't answer. At the time, I'd laughed. That morning, I didn't. I should explain how I ended up there. My wife Megan and I moved to northern Iowa about a year earlier. We'd spent 11 years outside Baltimore, where I worked logistics for a medical supplier and Megan did payroll for a construction company. We had 2 kids, Caleb and Noah, 8 and 5. Neither of us hated city life. We were just tired of paying an absurd amount of money for a house where I could practically shake hands with my neighbor through the kitchen window. Megan's parents lived outside Cedar Falls, and my sister was in Minnesota, so moving back toward the Midwest made sense. We found a place in a town I'll call Bellweather. It had 1 grocery store, 2 bars, 3 churches, and enough pickup trucks that mine finally stopped looking like a personality disorder. Our street was quiet, mostly families and retired couples. Rachel lived across from us with her husband Daniel and their daughter Sophie. Caleb and Sophie were in the same grade, which meant they became friends before any of the adults had a chance to decide whether we liked each other. Fortunately, we did. Daniel taught science at the middle school. Rachel worked from home doing bookkeeping for several local businesses. She was funny in a dry way, and had apparently decided within a week that I was the neighborhood skeptic. She wasn't wrong. One Saturday in June, we were at their place for a cookout. When Rachel brought up something called the white hours, Daniel immediately rolled his eyes. Don't start. I'm educating the new people. You're scaring them. Megan looked at me. I married him. It'll take more than Rachel. Rachel pointed her beer at me. Every few years we get fog that isn't normal. Chemically? No. Radioactive? No. Then I'm already disappointed. Daniel laughed. Rachel didn't. She explained that ordinary fog moved through all the time because of the river and surrounding farmland. The white hours were different. The fog arrived fast, usually before sunrise. It could cover a road in minutes and disappear almost as quickly. And people had gone missing in it. I assumed this was local folklore. Every town has something. A haunted bridge, a woman in white, a road where teenagers swear their car rolled uphill. Rachel told me to search for a man named Aaron Pike. So later that night, mostly because I'd had 3 beers and apparently become an investigative journalist, I did. Aaron Pike had disappeared 7 years earlier. His truck was found on County Road 14, with the driver's door open and his phone lying in the ditch. No blood. No footprints anyone could identify. No Aaron. The article included a quote from a woman living nearby. She said she'd heard someone yelling from the field around the time Aaron disappeared. Police apparently asked whether she'd recognized the voice. She hadn't. What bothered her was the way it sounded. like someone trying to speak while choking. I sent Rachel a screenshot. She responded almost immediately. Told you. Then she added me to a private Facebook group. There were 23 members. Most of the posts were boring neighborhood stuff disguised as paranormal investigation. Strange lights that turned out to be tractors, missing chickens, coyotes, pictures of footprints that looked suspiciously like raccoon tracks. But buried between those posts were older stories. A woman who vanished while walking her dog. A farmhand who left his tractor running beside an empty field. A college kid whose car was found against a drainage ditch. Different years. Different locations, same detail, heavy fog. I noticed something else. In several witness accounts, people reported hearing voices, not screaming exactly, calling. I mentioned that to Rachel. She sent back, "That's why you don't answer." I asked what happened if you did. She wrote, "Nobody knows. Very helpful." For the next couple weeks, nothing happened. Then came the morning my truck died. I'd left home early because we had an inventory audit at work. About 6 miles outside town, my dashboard flickered, the engine coughed, and I coasted onto the shoulder. I called roadside assistance. 45 minutes. Perfect. That's when the fog started coming over the field. Not drifting. Coming. It rolled across the crops like somebody had poured milk across the ground. Within minutes, the road behind me disappeared. Then, I heard the first scream. I recorded maybe 20 seconds on my phone. The video showed absolutely nothing useful, just white. But when I replayed it inside the truck, I heard the voice. Quiet. Far away. "Dad." I didn't have a kid with me. I knew both my boys were home asleep. Still, every nerve in my body reacted before my brain did. I almost opened the door. That's the part I didn't tell Megan. Something about that voice had made me want to go towards it. Then the figure crossed between the fence posts. Too tall. Too thin. Gone, almost immediately. I stayed inside until the tow truck arrived. By then the fog was breaking apart. The driver, an older guy named Ron, acted completely normal until I mentioned hearing somebody in the field. He stopped connecting the jumper cables. Somebody? Sounded like a kid. Ron looked toward the field. Then at me. "You answer?" I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. "No." "Good." He went back to the battery. I asked what that meant. Ron tightened one of the clamps. "Means you didn't answer." That was all he'd say. When I got home that evening, Rachel was waiting in my driveway. I'd sent her the recording. She didn't look excited anymore. She held up her phone. "Listen." She played my video. The voice came through the speaker. "Dad." Then Rachel increased the volume. There was another sound underneath it. Something I hadn't noticed. A second voice. Lower. Closer to my truck. It said my name. I didn't tell Megan about the second voice that night. That was mistake number 1. My reasoning was pretty simple. Megan had never liked Rachel's fog stories, and I didn't want to walk into our kitchen and announce that a supernatural weather system had learned my first name. So I did what rational adults do when they're scared. I pretended I wasn't. Rachel wasn't interested in pretending. She started digging through old newspaper archives and county records. Daniel thought we'd both lost perspective. He wasn't rude about it. He just kept supplying normal explanations. Sound travels strangely in fog. People get disoriented. Missing person cases happen everywhere. Human brains find faces in random shapes. All true. The problem was that none of it explained my name. Rachel suggested somebody from the Facebook group might have known where I was and played a prank. That actually made me feel better. For about 6 hours. Then she found another recording. It had been posted 4 years earlier by a man named Curtis Hale. Curtis had recorded dense fog outside his farmhouse. At first, there was only wind. Then a woman's voice said, "Curtis." 3 days later, he disappeared. His wife found the back door open. His boots were gone. Curtis wasn't. Police eventually classified him as voluntarily missing. Rachel showed me the post during lunch at a diner near my office. "Okay," I said. "That's bad. Thank you. Don't sound happy." "I'm not happy." "You look a little happy." "I'm vindicated." "That's happy wearing glasses." She almost smiled. Then she showed me something else. Curtis had a son. The boy had been 6 when his father disappeared. According to an old comment from Curtis's wife, their son had told police he'd heard his father outside that morning. Except Curtis had supposedly been inside the house at the time. That changed the way I thought about the voice. Maybe it wasn't calling randomly. Maybe it copied people. I started taking different roads to work. I also checked the weather forecast every night, which Megan noticed. "You farming now?" "Thinking about it." "You killed basil." "That plant lacked commitment." She looked over my shoulder at the weather app. "Is this about a Rachel's fog thing?" I should have told her. Instead, I said no. Mistake number 2. August passed without anything unusual. The Facebook group gradually returned to complaining about loose dogs and suspicious vans. I almost convinced myself the whole thing had been coincidence. Then a 71-year-old man named Leonard Moss disappeared. I'd seen Leonard before. He drank coffee every morning at the same gas station, where I sometimes stopped on my way to work. His Buick was found beside County Road 14. Door open. Keys inside. It had been foggy that morning. The police organized searches. Volunteers walked fields. Dogs were brought in. Nothing. Rachel messaged me one sentence. "Same road." I didn't need clarification. It was less than 2 miles from where my truck had died. That's when I finally told Megan everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she stared at me for several seconds. "So you heard something call your name and decided your wife didn't need that information?" "When you say it like that, how else would I say it?" Fair point. She wasn't angry because she believed in the fog. She was angry because I'd started changing routines, checking cameras, and taking longer routes without telling her why. She was right about that too. We agreed on some basic rules. If the fog got unusually thick, the kids stayed inside. Nobody walked anywhere alone, and I stopped investigating. I agreed. Then Rachel bought 2 trail cameras. Technically, I didn't buy them. That's the kind of legal defense that gets you divorced. Daniel helped install one behind their garage, and another facing the field beyond the neighborhood. I put a 3rd camera near our driveway. Megan watched me attach it to a tree. "I thought you were done." "It's security." "Against weather?" "Weather has gotten bold." She walked back inside. For 6 weeks, the cameras recorded nothing. Deer, cats, Daniel taking out garbage in boxer shorts, a raccoon that developed what appeared to be a personal grudge against Rachel's trash can. Normal life returned. Then on a Thursday in October, Caleb slept over at Rachel and Daniel's house. Around 5:30 the next morning, I woke up because our bedroom was cold. Not chilly. Cold enough that I could see a faint cloud when I breathed. I checked the thermostat. 70 degrees. Megan was asleep. I walked downstairs. Through the front window, I saw white. Our entire street had disappeared. The fog was already against the house. I called Rachel. She answered immediately. "You seeing this?" "Yeah." "Keep Caleb inside." There was a pause. Then she said, "Obviously." I stood at the window listening. Nothing. No cars, no birds, no wind. That bothered me more than the fog. Rachel stayed on the phone while we both watched from our houses. Her place was directly across the street, but I couldn't see it. Then my phone buzzed. A motion notification. Driveway camera. I opened the feed. For several seconds, the image showed only gray. Then something appeared near the mailbox. A person, standing still. I couldn't see a face. The figure was maybe 20 feet from my front door. Rachel, what? I've got somebody outside. Where? Mailbox. I heard her moving. Don't go out. I wasn't planning to. The figure shifted. Not walked. Shifted. Its outline seemed to stretch sideways, then pull itself together. The camera glitched. When the picture returned, the driveway was empty. Then someone knocked on my front door. 3 slow knocks. I froze. Megan came downstairs behind me. What was that? I held up a hand. Another knock. Then Caleb's voice came through the door. Dad? Megan moved toward it, grabbed her wrist. She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. That's Caleb. No. Dad? It sounded exactly like him. Same slight whistle through his front teeth. Same impatient tone. Dad, open up. Megan pulled against my hand. He's across the street. I showed her my phone. Rachel was still connected. Rachel, I said, where's Caleb? She sounded confused. Upstairs with Sophie. The knocking stopped. For maybe 10 seconds, nobody in our house moved. Then something scraped slowly across the outside of the door. Caleb's voice spoke again. But this time it wasn't asking to come inside. It was laughing. The fog disappeared 20 minutes later. Nothing was outside. No footprints, no marks on the door, no person hiding between houses. I walked across the street, only after I could see Rachel's porch clearly. Caleb came running out wearing dinosaur pajamas and carrying a bowl of cereal. He was completely fine. I hugged him hard enough that he complained. Dad, cereal, priorities. Rachel looked worse than I did. Her outdoor camera had captured the same figure. But there was a problem. According to the timestamp, the figure had been standing in her yard at the exact moment mine recorded it beside my mailbox. We compared footage. Same approximate height. Same narrow shoulders. Same strange movement around the edges. Daniel watched both clips twice. Then he stopped offering explanations. That scared me more than anything he'd said before. We sent copies to the county sheriff. A deputy came out that afternoon. He was polite. He watched the recordings. He inspected both properties. Then he asked whether anyone in the neighborhood had been using Halloween decorations. It was October, so I couldn't exactly blame him. Before leaving, though, he gave me a piece of advice. If that fog gets bad again, stay off the county roads. I asked why. He looked toward his cruiser. People drive stupid. Maybe that was all he meant. I don't think so. After that morning, we stopped treating the fog like a mystery. It became a safety problem. Rachel deleted the Facebook group from her phone. I kept the cameras running, but I stopped checking every notification. Megan made me promise that if we saw the heavy fog again, we'd stay inside and keep the doors locked. Easy promise. Then December came. Rachel and Daniel hosted a Christmas movie night for the kids. Megan was working late because her company was closing year-end payroll. I stayed home with Noah while Caleb went across the street. Around 8, Rachel texted. Caleb left his inhaler. He didn't need it often, but I didn't like him sleeping anywhere without it. I grabbed my coat and walked outside. The street was clear. Halfway across, the temperature dropped. I stopped. There are moments when your body notices something before your brain does. The hair on my arms lifted. My teeth started chattering. Behind Rachel's house, white fog spilled over the field. I ran the rest of the way. Rachel opened the door. She took one look at me and turned toward the window. No. Get the kids away from the windows. Daniel came from the kitchen. What's happening? Then he saw it. The fog reached the backyard. Within seconds, their fence disappeared. I called Megan. No answer. Called again. Voicemail. My stomach tightened. She was 20 minutes away. I sent her a message. Don't drive home. Fog is here. Stay at work. Rachel gathered the kids upstairs. Daniel checked the locks. Then my phone rang. Megan. I answered immediately. Where are you? About 10 minutes out. Turn around. What? Go back to work. I can't see anything. I closed my eyes. Megan, pull over. I am pulled over. Doors locked? Yes. Don't get out. She went quiet, then she whispered, There's somebody standing in the road. I looked at Daniel. He'd heard her through the phone. Stay in the truck, I said. It's a kid. Megan, he's just standing there. Do not open the door. The line crackled. Then she said something that made every muscle in my body lock. It looks like Noah. Noah was upstairs. I could hear him running around with the other kids. Megan, listen to me. Noah is here. Silence. Then, I know. Something hit her passenger window. Megan screamed. The call dropped. I headed for the door. Daniel blocked me. Move. No. My wife's out there. And you're going to do what? I didn't know. Drive into fog I couldn't see through. Fight something I couldn't explain. Great plan. I called her again. Nothing. Again. Nothing. Then headlights appeared outside Rachel's front window. A vehicle crawled through the fog and stopped crooked in the driveway. Megan's SUV. I opened the door before anyone could stop me. She stumbled out. I grabbed her and pulled her inside. She was shaking so badly she couldn't speak. There were handprints on the passenger window. Small ones. Child-sized. For almost an hour we stayed inside. Nobody talked much. The kids knew something was wrong, but we kept them upstairs with a movie. Then Daniel noticed his phone. Motion alert. Backyard camera. He opened it. The screen showed the deck. At first, nothing moved. Then a figure appeared near the fence. Daniel leaned closer. Rachel whispered his name. The figure was wearing a jacket. Daniel's jacket. Same brown work coat hanging beside the front door. Then the figure turned toward the camera. Its face wasn't Daniel's. It didn't have one. There was just a pale blur where the features should have been. The image froze. From somewhere outside came a voice. Sophie. Rachel stood up, again. Sophie. It sounded like Daniel. The real Daniel was standing beside us. Then we heard a door open upstairs. Rachel ran. I followed. Sophie was walking down the hallway toward the back staircase. She looked half asleep. Sweetheart, stop. She didn't. Dad's outside. Daniel pushed past me. I'm right here. Sophie turned. The confusion on her face lasted maybe a second. Then something slammed against the back door downstairs. Once. Twice. The third impact shook the frame. We got all the kids into the upstairs bedroom and locked ourselves in. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then the fog started coming under the door. Not smoke. Fog. Thin white strands sliding across the floor. Daniel stared at them. That's impossible. The temperature dropped. My lungs tightened. Then I heard the sound from the field again. That broken, choking cry. Except now I understood why people called it screaming. It wasn't trying to scare us. It was trying to speak. And downstairs, something using Megan's voice said my name. We didn't go downstairs. That decision probably saved some of us. Daniel shoved towels under the bedroom door, while Rachel opened a window. The backyard was completely white. No ground, no fence, nothing. Opening the window made the room colder immediately, so she slammed it shut. My chest started hurting. Not sharp pain, pressure, like I'd inhaled winter air while running. Megan rubbed her arms. Something's wrong. Red patches were forming across her skin. I checked mine. Same thing. Daniel suddenly doubled over, coughing. Rachel grabbed him. When he lifted his head, blood was running from his nose. Then somebody started pounding on the front door downstairs. A man's voice yelled from outside. "Fire department!" Nobody moved. Again. "Fire department! Anybody inside?" Rachel looked at me. I shook my head. We hadn't called them. The voice changed. "Daniel?" Daniel went pale. It sounded like his father. I'd never met the man, but Daniel had. He'd buried him 3 years earlier. "Daniel, open the door." Rachel grabbed his hand. That was when the screaming started outside. Not one voice. Several. Men, women, children. All choking on words. Dad, Mom, help, please. The sounds moved around the house. Sometimes near the windows. Sometimes far away. Sometimes directly beneath us. Then we heard glass break downstairs. Daniel stood. "We can't stay." He was right. The fog was already inside. It curled through the hallway and gathered along the floor. The red patches on my arms had started swelling. Megan was wheezing. Noah began coughing. We needed out. The only route that didn't require going downstairs was the garage roof beneath the guest room window. From there, we could climb down to the side yard. It was stupid. It was also the only idea available. Daniel went first. He lowered himself onto the roof. Rachel passed Sophie out. Then Caleb. Then Noah. Megan followed. I went last. The moment I climbed through the window, the cold hit me so hard, my hands cramped. We couldn't see the ground. Daniel kept everyone touching the house. "Side gate," he said. "Then next door." Their neighbor, Mr. Patterson, had a finished basement and an exterior storm door. More importantly, his house was maybe 40 feet away. We moved slowly. Rachel held Sophie. I kept Caleb and Noah between Megan and me. Daniel led. Then somebody called from behind us. "Dad." Caleb stopped. I grabbed his shoulder. "Keep moving." "But that's not me." His face changed when he understood. We reached the fence. Daniel opened the gate and stepped through. The screaming stopped. Every voice, all at once. Daniel froze. I saw something ahead. A person standing in the fog. Maybe 15 feet away. Daniel saw it too. "Back up." The figure moved toward us. Not walking normally. Its body seemed to form and collapse with every step. Pieces of white rolled off its shoulders. For 1 second, I thought I recognized the coat. Then Rachel whispered, "Leonard, the missing old man." I'd seen his picture on every bulletin board in town. The shape wore his face, or something close to it. His mouth opened. Nothing came out at first. Then he made that choking sound. "Help!" Daniel stepped backward. The figure came closer. Its cheek bubbled. That's the only word I have for it. The skin rose like something underneath was inflating it, then burst into mist. Rachel screamed. Leonard's shape started coming apart. Not falling. Dissolving. His fingers became strands of white. His face collapsed inward. For a moment, there was nothing left except his mouth. "Help!" Then that disappeared too. Daniel turned toward us. "Run!" We did. I carried Noah. Megan pulled Caleb. Rachel had Sophie. Daniel stayed behind us. We reached Mr. Patterson's yard when I heard Daniel yell. Rachel turned. I did too. He was maybe 20 feet behind us. Something had wrapped around his legs. Not hands. Fog. Thick strands twisted around his jeans. Daniel fell. Rachel started back. I caught her. "Let go!" She hit my arm. I didn't. Daniel tried crawling towards us. His hands tore through the grass. Then his jacket began smoking. His skin moved underneath it. He screamed. That sound. The same sound I'd heard months earlier. The same impossible, broken voice. Except now I knew exactly what it was. It was a human being trying to scream while whatever lived in the fog changed his lungs. Rachel tore free from me. She reached Daniel, grabbed his wrists. I grabbed her around the waist. For several seconds, the three of us formed a chain. Daniel's face was changing. Tiny white bubbles appeared along his jaw. His eyes locked on Rachel. He tried saying her name. What came out sounded nothing like speech. Then his grip slipped. Rachel caught his hand again. Daniel. His fingers started disappearing inside hers. There was no blood. That somehow made it worse. His skin became white vapor. His arm thinned. Rachel was holding his wrist. Then his hand. Then nothing. She fell backward against me. Daniel was gone. Not hidden. Gone. The fog where he'd been standing rolled forward. I dragged Rachel toward Patterson's house. She fought me until she couldn't. The cold had gotten into all of us. My arms were swelling. Megan's lips were turning blue. Caleb was crying, but making almost no sound. I pounded on Patterson's storm door. No response. Again. Nothing. Then the door opened. Mr. Patterson stood there with a respirator over his face. Inside. He pulled the kids in first, then Megan, then Rachel. I stumbled after them. He slammed the door and shoved towels around the frame. His basement was warm. He had 2 space heaters running. There were plastic sheets taped over the windows. I stared at him. You knew? Patterson looked toward Rachel. He removed the respirator. I'm sorry. Rachel was sitting on the floor. She didn't react. Patterson had lived in Bellweather for 62 years. He told us the town had known about the fog long before anyone called it the White Hours. Not everyone believed the stories. But older families knew one rule. When the heavy fog came, you stayed inside. You didn't follow voices. You didn't answer people you couldn't see. And you never went looking for someone who disappeared into it. I asked what it was. He shook his head. Nobody knew. The county had tested air samples years earlier, after several residents became sick. They found unusual bacterial concentrations in the moisture, but nothing that explained the disappearances. Patterson believed the bacteria weren't the thing itself. They were a symptom. Like flies around something dead, he said. We stayed in his basement until almost noon. When we came outside, the sky was blue. Daniel was still gone. Police searched for days. They found 1 shoe near the fence. Nothing else. Megan, Rachel, and I ended up in the hospital that afternoon. Doctors called our injuries severe environmental reactions. Megan had inflammation in her lungs. I had lesions along both arms. Rachel was worse. She'd been closest to Daniel when he disappeared. The skin along her hands and neck had split in several places, and she needed surgery. The kids recovered quickly. That was the only good thing. Daniel became another missing person. No body meant no explanation. No explanation meant rumors. Some people thought he'd run away. Others thought Rachel had done something to him. We knew better. 3 months later, Megan and I put the house on the market. We moved to Wisconsin. Rachel took Sophie to live with her sister near Omaha. We still talk occasionally. Never about Bellweather. I deleted every recording except one. I don't know why I kept it. Maybe because some part of me still wants proof that I didn't imagine everything. It's the clip from the morning my truck died. For a long time, I thought the important part was the voice saying my name. It wasn't. About a year after we moved, I listened again with headphones. I heard something I'd missed. Right before the voice says my name, there's another sound. Very quiet. Someone breathing. Then a child whispers, "Dad, don't answer." It's Caleb's voice. The recording was made months before the fog ever copied him. I haven't listened to it since. We don't investigate strange weather anymore. We don't stand at windows trying to see what's outside. When heavy fog rolls in, I lock the doors. The kids know the rule. Megan knows it. Nobody answers voices. Last winter, we had our first really foggy morning since leaving Iowa. Normal Wisconsin fog. That's what the weather report called it. I was making coffee when Noah came downstairs and asked why somebody was standing in our backyard. I looked through the kitchen window. There was nobody there. I told him he probably saw the bird feeder. He shook his head. No. Then he pointed toward the glass. He was closer before. I closed the blinds. A few seconds later, my phone buzzed. Motion detected. Backyard camera. I didn't open it. Then somebody knocked on the back door. 3 slow knocks. Megan came into the kitchen. Neither of us spoke. Another 3 knocks. Then we heard a man's voice. Weak. Choking. Familiar. "Rachel?" Megan grabbed my hand. The voice came again. "Rachel, open the door." It was Daniel. And that's when I finally understood something we'd gotten wrong from the beginning. Whatever was in that fog hadn't been trapped in Bellweather. It hadn't followed roads or rivers. It hadn't followed weather patterns. It had followed us. The knocking stopped. For almost a minute, the house was silent. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't the backyard camera. It was the camera in Caleb's room. Motion detected. Upstairs.